Hey everybody, John Felt here, and this is the Blue Water Outlook weekly weather briefing for the 28th of April. Big story by far has been the widespread severe weather we've had over the last 3 days. Will that continue? I'll be talking about that. And it looks like a warming trend over many areas as we go into May. So let's get started in today's briefing. Well, as you probably know, we had a multi-day severe weather event starting late last week. Long track tornadoes, major tornadoes, over 118 tornadoes and counting from Nebraska and Iowa all the way down into Oklahoma and Texas. So you can see all the action here right in the center part of the state, and it was one day after another. So many areas were under the gun for multiple days. And these are all the severe storm reports. So in addition to tornadoes, there was damaging wind and hail, large hail as well. Now, we had a lot of heavy rain with these storms. This was an estimate of over 8 to 10 inches of rain, and rivers are running very high, flash flooding in that area. Anything in yellow, over 2 inches of rain. So we also had some very heavy rain. I put the river basins here. So this is Middle Mississippi, and this is the Missouri River Basin, and that's the Arkansas River Basin. Okay, so we take a look at the departure from normal temperatures. What you see here is the eastern U.S. for the week, average below normal, and the west above. But there was definitely some cooler air in the west. Matter of fact, if you want to look at the lowest one-day minimum, below 30 degrees, and in higher elevations below 20 degrees in these spots in purple, some cold air in those regions. Now, the culprit for all the severe storm activity, this is a stationary front, so it's not moving, and that's why we're getting one round after another in that area. We have winds coming from the Gulf of Mexico, feeding in moisture into that boundary, and that's feeding the severe storms and the heavy rain. Dew points are in the 50s, 60s, and 70s over large parts of the eastern U.S. And look at the contrast, and I talk about gradients all the time. Dew point 60, dew point 44, and that focuses that boundary for upward motion. So we have a lot of rivers that are running in flood, red being moderate, purple here being major, and that's associated with that area of 8 to 10 inches of rain right in here. That water is running into the Missouri River, and then that's going to be coming down towards St. Charles, and then downstream, we have some water coming from upstream with additional rain as well. So here's the upper air feature that's supporting all of our severe storm activity. This is doing two things. It's providing the lift to make these storms form, but it's also providing a change in direction, wind direction with height. That's wind shear veering, and that's an ingredient in tornado formation, a change in direction with height. So that's the reason why we've had so many tornadoes. Now let's take a look at next week. Sort of what we call an omega type pattern, where we have colder air and a dip in the jet stream in the west, a ridge or very mild air in the central U.S., and then what we have is another dip in off the east coast, really. So what that means is it means we're going to have some really mild temperatures over many areas with cooler airs in the west, milder air generally in the east, and then by early to mid-May, you can see here most areas have above normal temperatures. I like to look at the drought monitor in relationship to our rainfall, because there's short term, it's where we have too much rain and we're getting the flooding, but then there's long term on we don't want to get in a situation like last summer where we had extremely low river flows and problems with drought conditions for agriculture. So this is an area before this rain. This is where we needed more rain, and we got that rain in many of these spots, and we're going to get more rain over the next 7 days in these spots. So what we're doing is we're recharging soil moisture, and we're recharging stream flow, which might cause problems right now, but later in the season, it's going to be better. And I also mentioned another positive is the Eastern Corn Belt's been very wet with fieldwork delays, planting delays, and that does not look nearly as wet over the next several weeks. But in this area, right through the central part of the U.S., I think we're going to have delays in Iowa for field work and planting. Parts of Missouri, very heavy rain further south. Now, Kansas, sort of interesting to note, is the eastern U.S. or eastern part of Kansas is very wet, but the western part has been very dry. So big changes west to east over Kansas, but very wet conditions over the central U.S. this week. Now let's go through our threat assessment. Severe storms are still possible today. Enhanced risk, tomorrow slight risk. Generally speaking, not as widespread as what we've seen over the last 3 days, but still definitely a chance of tornadoes today in this enhanced area right here, and even some in the slight area. As far as rain goes, we have the possibility for excessive rainfall, and this is where we have flooding going on. Let's take a look at week. Oh, you know what? I did put in here. This is the 30-day departure of normal for rain, and some of this is coming in the first week here. But basically, some of the big trends: the western U.S. looks really dry, along the Gulf Coast pretty dry, and the Ohio River Valley and the southeast generally dry. And it looks like right here, this axis right here, looks like where the wettest weather is forecast. Here's week 2, western U.S. Remember that dip in the jet stream here? Sort of like this, and then it went like this. Well, mild weather under the push of the jet stream to the north, cooler air where it pushes south. That's this week's weather briefing. Hope it helped you in your planning, and hope you have a great week. We're heading towards May. Take care.